Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Circle Up and Get Real, where by now you know we talk about things that matter with people who matter. And the secret is that's everybody. So, Denise, not to say that you're not really, really important to this conversation, because right now you're the star. But when we really connect with people, it really doesn't seem to matter who we're connecting with because it's that soul to soul. And that kind of sets up how I know you. So Denise Marie Gaber is my guest today, and she's a resilience coach, a sound healer, and a musician. Now that is a mouthful right there. You do a lot of things. So I can read your bio, or I can have you tell us what it means to be a sound healer, and musician will come to later, but sound healer and resilience coach. Can you talk about that, Denise?
Okay, well, sound healer in a nutshell is I'm holding the space for one to naturally, innately heal themselves by utilizing sounds and frequencies that support the body in its health and wellness, its wholeness. Um, when we get off track in that, and how sound can be like a deep tissue cellular massage.
Oh,
Um, and you can kind of see behind me there, that is my piece of equipment. It is called a vibroacoustic cushion.
okay.
And I have done sessions with people utilizing that where they sit on that. And then I have a program on my app, and I can pick out pure frequencies that will reduce inflammation on the nerve endings, any pain, reduce high blood pressure, whatever's going on in the body. Sound healing is there to support that and to help the body remember what it's supposed to do.
That makes so much sense when you really break that down to that we are really just a mass of vibrating energy, we as humans. And if we can really embrace that concept, that makes sense that you would help by getting vibrational energy back in the place it probably is best suited for us, maybe.
Yes, yes. And I just recently became a VAT practitioner, vibroacoustic therapist. So
Yeah.
I went through some training and learned that there's been over 40 years of clinical studies and research that has proven that this does help and support the body. There's so many different modalities out there. And before I was doing that, um, I actually just use my keyboard. I have a specific sound on my keyboard, and so I do a combination of working with the physical body, but in the class, when I was going through the vibroacoustic training, my instructor asked, she said, where would you like to see more research done? And I said, with the emotional body, because the emotions are water.
Mm.
And we talk about how the human body is made up of 60 to 70% water, and that sound travels faster through water than air. And so
That okay, I'm this is makes so much logical sense if we allow ourselves to even go logical. um so I want to dig in here, but before I just kind of jumped in, Denise, I didn't even really tell much about you. Denise and I have known each other for a long time, but we've sort of gone in and out of connection. And so I put this notice out on my Facebook page about, hey, who knows somebody who might want to be a guest on my podcast? And you said, I do. And I went, oh, that's a perfect guest for getting real, because that's what we do here on the Circle Up and Get Real podcast is we get real. And so what you're recognizing, Denise, through your journey, you said I just became a VAT certified, is it practitioner?
yes,
Yeah.
vibroacoustic sound therapist. Yes.
Okay.
Therapy.
But you said just did this. Before this, you said you used your keyboard. And before that, I mean, how did you get here in this space?
Well, I feel like I felt like since I was a child, I mean, music, well, heck, my mother used to play the Beatles when I was in her womb, sing or Hey Jude. I was going to say Jude.
Well, that too. That's a
Hey Jude, don't be afraid. And my mom loved music. So that was just put into me. I think, knowing what I understand now about our divinity, music is just who I am. It
mm,
really is. And So prior to getting on the holistic side of all of this, uh, I have had a lot of experience being in a lot of music projects, as in rock and roll bands, being the
Wow.
vocalist on the stage and, jamming out on the keys and just having a good time. That was a big part of my life. And it's, you know, in the last years, it's kind of been in and out. And I will just say I'm getting back into being on the stage again this next year uh, as a part-time role.
Yeah.
And I'm just really owning that there's the being real with, I have a rock and roll side, but I also have the other R&R side, which is the rest and the relaxation.
Mm, that's
And
awesome.
it took me some time to really bridge those two together. I really
Mm,
had conflict around that because if you're going to be in the rest and relaxation and the meditative and the spiritual and all of those things, well, that's how it looks, and you have a certain persona, and it's,
yeah. Yeah. Right. Yep.
and rock and roll, that's kind of the exact opposite, right? Because that's like, woo, exciting and a lot of energy, high energy. And what I've realized what both ends of those spectrums do for me is the rest and relaxation just helps me to just settle and calm and really become present that way. But when I'm in rock and roll, it really grounds me. It's another way to dig down deep and really be connected because you're on that stage and you're putting a lot of energy. But when I'm on that stage, that energy feels so good, and
Mm.
it's just a part of feeling complete inside myself.
That's so cool. So you've played, you have your own albums, don't you? Do the albums, CD, whatever. You have your own music.
I do have my own music. I have a lot of music that has yet to be recorded and produced, and that has been a journey for me because the me here, the ego parts of me is like, my gosh, I'm almost this age. Why don't I have all my songs
Mm,
done and recorded? And then I have to remind myself, you have done exactly what you've needed to do. And maybe your YouTube channel only has maybe 5 songs on it, and they're perfect and they're
mm,
what's needed. And that's okay. I listened to some of your interview with Gina Powers,
yeah.
and and her a little bit of her story, and and she's at a certain age as well, and it's easy to get caught up in thinking, and because society has this, the old pattern is you have to be younger or have to be more pop or more whatever, but I believe that age actually brings a lot of wisdom to the table, and you get past those points where you can be real. You just are like, you know what, I'm so tired of wearing all the masks that don't fit.
Yeah.
And so music at our age, I believe, is perfect.
Mm.
And so, yes, I have a vision. I have more songs I want to get done, so many more, but I'm also more relaxed about it. And just when it happens, it happens. And if I choose to leave this body before that, my family has a whole book of songs, if you will.
Nice. That's awesome. I love that. And I love that. I love how you said there are two ends to the spectrum, both R and R. And it was interesting that you said when you're on the stage with rock and roll, it grounds you. And I think that's so awesome because you're not judging one over the other. You're not saying one is better, one is preferable. They're all part of you, it sounds like.
Yes.
And maybe when you started your journey, you were in the rock and roll without the R&R, rest and relaxation. I don't know if that's has come with wisdom for you. It sure has with me.
Yes, yes. I mean, I would listen to slow ballads and things like that, but the whole meditation and the whole sound healing and all of that, I really wasn't aware of that. I mean, I knew
Mm,
music was healing, but prior to a certain point in my life, that I didn't have that connection, and of course, there was a series of things that brought that forth, and I'm so grateful, and it is a very just a nice place to be, that I don't have to fight with one or the other anymore. And I don't have
mhm.
to concern myself about what other people think of that, because you can be we are all spiritual beings having a human experience.
Yes. Whether we want to admit that that's true or not, that is true. And
And
so, yes, right on. So you said there were a series of things that brought you to this place. Maybe at some point in all of our lives, we're not specifically looking for the spiritual. It's sort of looking for us, it seems, in some ways. So what was the journey for you to get to this place?
wow,
I know, just a little question like that.
just a little question like that. Um, and I was raised with some spirituality. I was raised as a Christian. Grew up Catholic. Tried on many forms of the religions, that are around. Went from being Catholic to Lutheran to evangelical to Baptist to, I mean,
Wow.
you name it. I've tried them all on because I do have it's within me, this connection to know and love God, and to feel that connection. In fact, I'm going to show you, because when I look at my baby picture, I'm not
Mhm.
sure how
Okay, I hope you can look at this. If you don't see it, if we're listening, oh my goodness, that's so sweet. There's a
that
little
is
baby picture,
at 6 months old, and I
6 months
can,
old, a little
yes,
black and white, beautiful little baby. Love it.
yes. And I can tell you in this picture, and when I look at this picture and those bright eyes and that bright smile and my big ears,
Yeah.
not quite any hair yet, that this little girl knew her
Mm,
connection to
mm,
God, to
yeah.
love. And she knew she was worthy to receive it and to
Mm,
give it, and completely present.
yeah.
And we can circle back to this, but children really, really,
Oh,
you want
completely,
to remember, just look at a child.
completely, completely. I'm so glad you have that right in front of you to remind you. That's just awesome.
Yeah, yes. So I knew that when I came into this life, I was ready to take on this world. I saw this world like a beautiful, big, sparkling diamond, or a big disco ball.
Mm,
And within that diamond world was the mega mall of dreams and unlimited possibilities.
mm,
And I knew that I was free to try on all these life experiences. And so, of course, my first experience in the department store of the mall was going into the parents' wear, right? So I'm going to kind of give it a little analogy.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, because that's, through my parents and looking through their eyes, and how could I fit in their shoes?
Mm,
Um, because I looked up to my parents and I love my parents. And even more so now at the age that I am.
mm,
And then my next trip was into the sibling wear, and how do I fit in with my two younger brothers?
mm,
And that was interesting.
for sure.
Because first of all, I'm the only girl in the family,
Mhm,
and I'm the oldest girl in the
mhm,
family. And I have a brother that's a year and a half younger than me, and then another one that's 7 years younger than I am. So, I had one close to me, and so that was interesting to learn of myself through my siblings, my brothers. And then, of course, going on into school, and stepping into the friends wear department and seeing where I fit in there. And then at the age of 14, I happened to land in the menswear department.
aha, aha.
And had my first experience of love and having a boyfriend. And, we were together off and on for 7.5 years. It was very tumultuous, but we had two beautiful children together.
Mhm,
But we parted ways because it wasn't meant to be.
mhm,
And then, not so many years later, I met the man that I was married to, and we had three more beautiful children together.
mhm.
And so during that time, I'm trying on all these life experiences of being a wife and a mother. And I also was a licensed cosmetologist who um, got together with her best friend, and we opened up a salon. So we were business owners. I was a business owner, manager, and loved that experience. Learned a lot in that experience. And while I was wearing those hats, I was also wearing the rock and roll hats, performing on the stage. And I was very connected to my community, and I was very involved in the church. And so I tell people I kind of had my sinner and my saint.
Yeah.
if you will, because for some people being in rock and roll, that was like, you know,
Yep.
and for some people being in the church, that was woo.
Yeah.
So there's that part of my journey where I just I kept losing myself. I kept
Mhm.
losing sight of myself. I kept forgetting that that little girl that I showed you in the picture.
Mhm.
And so it was I gathered all of this identity wear, if you will, and I had this closet full of the different labels that I wore throughout the years. And in 2003, my whole life changed. That was the year, May 17th, 2003, that my 17-year-old Amanda passed away in a car accident.
Yeah.
And so it was like all that identity wear was burnt up in the fire of grief.
Mm.
And then I had no clue who I was.
Mhm. Right.
I mean, when she died, I felt like a huge part of me had died also.
Yeah.
But honestly, Jody, in all reality, it was in her passing is where my awakening began and I began to
Mm.
find myself.
Mm.
And things started to unfold and I started to I'll just say that was where the journey began, where I began to learn how to unlearn the
Mm.
things that I thought I knew about myself.
Right. What order of children was she? Like, which in your 5 kids?
Second child. So
Your
she was my,
second.
yes. So I was a young mom.
Yeah.
My oldest son, I was just shy of 17 when I had him. And when I had Amanda, it was a week, our birthdays were a week apart. So um, a week before my 20th birthday. She came in on December 17th. Now, 17 is a big
Yeah.
deal as far as numbers, too, because, she was born the 17th. She passed the 17th. She was 17 when she died. She rode
Wow.
bus 17. I mean,
Wow.
just crazy things. But like I said, this is where I started to learn how to unlearn
Yeah.
everything I thought I knew. So numbers, what I learned about that, and we'll touch.
Right. How did you get to that point? Because in the midst of grief and everything that you must have been experiencing, that anybody would be experiencing, you said she kind of opened your eyes to things you didn't know about yourself. So what happened in that, what happened in 2003 when all of this occurred for you, let's say?
I after she had passed away, I started having, I mean, immediately started having some experiences where we knew she was around us.
Mm.
Um, I could feel her energy. Um, I don't know how far I want to go into all this, and during that time, my family and I were very connected to a beautiful church family, and we had so much support from them and my community. It was amazing. I mean, Amanda's funeral was in the high school gymnasium. There were so many people,
Wow.
and but I remember even like sitting in our living room um, and sitting amongst people, and I started to smell roses in front of my nose. And at that time, I didn't have flowers. We didn't have flowers in the house, and I'm like, this is interesting. And but the big thing was is that Amanda used to write me and her family notes all the time.
Mm.
And one of the first notes that I found the day after her accident in the top drawer of my dresser was a note that said, God doesn't give us more than we can handle. Remember this and be strong.
Wow.
And so that was actually hung up in her casket
Mm.
writing. And she had all these different writings. I mean, even though the girl went through what teenagers go through with, feeling insecure and disconnected and remembering and forgetting who she was, when she was remembering, her writings and her wisdom was spot on for a
Wow.
17-year-old and even as a little girl.
Wow. Wow.
So, I mean, there's so much more to that, but that's where I'm like, okay, there's something more to this. And I started, um, reading books. Of course, at that time, um, very much, and I still enjoy and appreciate scripture. I
Mhm.
just look at it differently now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so, uh, she had on her bed, when we got the next morning after the accident, on the her bed was her Bible, and it was Psalm 62, the Lord is my
Mm.
rock and my salvation. And I didn't know at the time that not only was there that, but the youth pastor and the high school kids had gotten together, and had put together all of these rocks and put messages on these rocks. And
Mm.
they were brought to her prayer service the night before the funeral. And my cousin at the time had also had a dream that she came through in the dream and was showing her rocks.
Wow.
Okay. So I'll kind of cook that down because I'll circle it down. And this is another thing about rock and roll.
Yeah.
The core message from all of that I've cooked this down into is that, and her message as well, is that we are all a rock solid being rolling out divine purpose.
Oh my goodness, that's so good. That's so good. So I want to just stop here for a second. And you mentioned, you said we had you've gone through all kinds of different denominations and religious searches maybe,
Yeah.
and you said we're all spiritual beings having a human experience. So all of these things that we know to be true, we trust are from a higher source. What is it that has us, in your opinion, be afraid to be real about these kinds of spiritual things when it relates to religion, the way it's been set up?
Well, I'm going to say it this way: behind every label we wear, whether we put it as a Christian or a Buddhist, or we put it as a mother or a wife or a daughter or um, a career business person, whatever it is, whatever labels we are wearing, we have to pull those away. And behind them, there are two driving forces: love and fear.
Mm.
And so when people get stuck, it's because there's fear. And there's fear of stepping out of the box and allowing yourself to explore more because, let's just face it, we've had certain conditioning and programming and religious trauma. And I'm not beating up religion itself. I'm just saying when we come from fear, it shows up in different ways. And for me, it really showed up as rejection, abandonment, betrayal. God doesn't love me. I'm never going to be good enough.
Mhm.
And really cook down, like, literally, does God hate me? Because if I'm feeling rejected, that means I don't feel loved by God. And that means, does God hate me?
Mm.
And so I think that's kind of the core structure behind all of it,
Yeah.
is if we don't understand that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, that we all come from a beautiful, amazing, tremendous, we can't even wrap our minds around it, source of love
Mm.
that is unconditional, and that we can't see that we're all fractals and particles of that love.
Mhm.
And so when we're in fear, we're in separation, and then we're forgetting, and then we're disconnected. This is my experience, and this is what I've seen in the reflections of people that have come um, on my life's journey.
Right. Right. And I would, it's just interesting as you're saying all this. I'm thinking back to some of the guests I've had on the podcast for no obvious reason. I mean, I've just, hey, you're cool, want to have a conversation with me. And there is such a theme of identity, getting rid of old identities, of stepping into what it means to be real. If you go back on almost any of the interviews, 190 or so, there is this theme that speaks to all of my guests about what it means to them to be real. And the REAL for this podcast is radical, energized, authentic, and learning focused. And radical does not mean crazy, wild, out there radical, the way you kind of implied people might have seen you as a rock and roll star, right? Radical means coming back to the root. Radish is a root vegetable. If we can get back to the root of who we really are, I think you described it as we're created by a creator, right? there's this essence to all of us, love and fear, that if we really go back, it's all love. You showed the picture of your little 6-month-old. That's pure love.
Yes.
What I've heard Marianne Williamson say is, we're all love. That's what we are. And fear is what we're taught here. So our job is basically to go inside and say, what are all the things I've placed in the way of love being the way I see myself and the world sees me? So this is just really super cool, and no coincidence, Denise, that we're having the conversation in the way it's going, because you're right. This is what the world is about. So as you went on your journey through your daughter's death and all of the things that had you peel back your own layers and take your own labels off, professionally, how did that impact you? What were you doing before that? Were you a professional singer?
Yeah, I mean, I was in a rock band and had, I mean, we weren't doing anything national, but we were doing regional and, you know, winning, uh, battle of the bands type events,
Yeah, yeah.
just having, you know, having a good time. But after Amanda passed away, is where the root of music started to come through me.
Mm,
And you know, I just want to say, even now at the age that I'm at, I want people to understand that your journey of love and fear is an ebb and flow,
mm,
and we're never done. We're never done with it in the way that we think we should reach perfection. But the perfection is that what used to hold us back in fear doesn't have as much hold as it used to. And so the more you build your spiritual muscle and your core knowing of who you are, the stronger you do become,
mm,
and you can let go of things. And that's what's happened with me. I may have moments where I'm triggered by something, or I'm insecure about myself as a musician or a sound healer, or a resilience coach, but I don't stay in
mm,
those moments as much as I have. And I will tell you why. And what really opened me up is when I landed in some work, a few years after Amanda passed away. And this is around the era I met you, 2007. And it gave me a language to my inner spirit.
mm,
It gave me the what, or the understanding of my soul's blueprints, why, what and why, what I am and why I do what I do.
mm,
And that was so life changing to me, because it showed me where my energy, my love, when open, is complementive, and when it's closed, it's conflicting.
mm,
And it helped me to understand how other people, their what's and their whys,
mm.
and to make a little more sense of the unified love that we can have in collaboration, and the wars that happen when internal conflict and external conflict
Yeah,
bump up against each other.
yeah. So that, I think I know what you're alluding to, who we met, what we did, the certifications and the things that were happening at that point. Did that when you became a coach or a consultant, or how did you, what did you
Yes,
call
that's
yourself?
where I decided, where I knew, I'm like, I want to become a facilitator
Yeah.
of core passion,
Mhm.
which is these amazing 12 codes that give, each code gives you a language to your inner spirit, what drives you to do what you do. And we all have those 12 codes, but there are the top five that really, where we have the most passion around,
Mhm.
and where our gifts are intense, if you will, because we're just passionate.
Right.
And what that looks like when we're in the challenge, and how to come back into balance and harmony. Just some beautiful, simple language that you can take it in professionally, personally, into your religious organizations, your new age spiritual organizations. It's universal. And that's
Mhm.
what I love about that line of work. It's not here to compete. I say that what I do as a core passion facilitator is like the salt to the pepper. How do we add more flavor? There's a lot of, and that there's a lot of different assessments people can take.
For sure.
Myers-Briggs, the Enneagram. There's just a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
The strength finders.
Mhm.
And I just gravitate the most to the core passion work,
Yeah.
because what I love about it and what probably sets it apart is that it actually gives you a measurement to your energy. It measures your human energy field.
So this is less than about, I'm going to say woo woo in a very loving way, because we both have been called woo woo at some point, I'm sure. So touchy feely, woo woo, whatever, it puts something to it that has, you said, a way to measure it that can be effective for all aspects of our lives. Home, work. You mentioned a lot of different places, church. So with this awareness that you had with core passion and you became a facilitator of that, tell me more about how that impacted your feeling of this is what I'm here to do.
Well, because one of my drivers is called creativity. And creative people, the arts are really important. Music, painting, and networking is a big part of that too. Like connecting, being connectors for people, and bringing in two opposite lines of work to create something amazing. And so it gave me permission to get back to the music. Like, oh, I'm
Mm.
a music artist. I do paint music, if you will.
Yeah.
And so um because I had such a push and a pull with that, in my life, and being a mom, and being a wife, and it did create conflict, because it felt competitive. It was
Mm.
reflected back as competitive, rather than this is who I am, and it's here to complement my family.
Mm.
But I didn't. It took me a while to feel that confidence in that. And in
Sure.
fact, a lot of the songs I've written have been inspired by my family.
Mm.
Um, and I will tell you, during that period of time, Amanda passed in 2003, 2007. I start to have my spiritual awakening, and I start to connect to these things that help me to remember who I am. So 10 years later, my marriage of 24 years fell apart.
Mm. Wow.
And that was another um, deep. I mean, it was trauma. It was like, another death,
Mm-hmm.
another part of me reconnecting to the partnership within myself. And how do I want to say, just I think, not good, bad, or right or wrong, but just the fact that we were growing apart,
Yeah.
and we were in two different atmospheres.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so it just turned out that, we were not to be together, but a lot of good songs came from during that time, from my pain. And so for me, another thing that I learned about myself during this time is that um, turning my losses into inspiration
Mm.
were a part of my innate being.
Yeah.
And what I also recognized is, because I come with, my passion for music, and my passion for turning loss into inspiration, and my passion for compassion and hugging people. Um, the the codes, or the core passion work, also showed me that other people they aren't driven that way.
Mm.
If they have to, you have to earn trust before you can get in their bubble
Right.
and
Right.
give them a hug.
Yeah.
And I was just thought, well, am I either weird, or
Mm.
you can't hug, or how come you're not approachable?
Right.
And I'm like, gosh, if I'd have had that language in my years of doing hair,
Ah,
being
right.
on the
Oh,
stage, right?
yeah.
Um, and so when my heart is open, I really can accept people for where they are, and I'm not there to change them.
Yeah.
When I get into fear, that shows
Mm.
up the opposite.
Interesting. That's a really interesting distinction. And because, yeah, for a lot of reasons, listeners who are listening to this, see if you can find something in yourself that relates to. You said, when my heart is open, it's out of love. And when I start, you didn't say it like this, but what I heard is when you would start judging things, or wanting them to be different, or wanting to help people fix things, that's from fear ourselves.
Yes,
That's a huge awareness for everyone to think about. It's not that anybody's right or wrong or good or bad. It's just from which position you're coming to it, I think.
which perspective are you seeing?
Yeah,
Window of love, or are you seeing through the window of fear?
right.
And when fear just innately brings up a lot of judgment on
Yeah.
the people around you. Um, and I do believe we need some fear. When I look at fear, I see it like the fertilizer in the ground. And I'm just going to say the shit in the ground
Yeah.
is what pushes the plant to grow.
Mm.
So we do need some of that, but we're not meant to be drowning in fear.
Yeah.
We're not meant to be, and that's what causes a lot of disease in the body. Our emotions are all wound up and balled up. Our minds are balled up, and we're just totally out of harmony with ourselves.
Mm. Mm. And I suppose it would take some level of awareness to get beyond the judging, even self-judgment of that, that can allow us to take off that identity of someone who needs to be um, directed by fear. Because I don't want to judge this. There have been a lot of organizations whose job it is to keep us in the lines, keep us in the box. I mean, just think about the way schools were set up. The bells ring to tell you what time to go. And that was all based on a system that we needed at the time. We needed order and structure at some level of our awareness. And so if we now you're describing your own spiritual awakening that happened in 2007 for you, if it's that we are still bound by other people's opinions of us, where they might be coming from their own fear, and then we're taking it on and going, oh, that must be right. You said this earlier about yourself. Is it me? Am I wrong? All of that can be the light of love can be shown on that and give us a whole different way of seeing it, I think, from what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so when you're in the space then of determining for yourself that you want to be a facilitator of core passion as one thing, because now we're going to get to sound healer, what the heck is a resilience coach? And how did that come into the picture?
Well, resilience, because of the journey and all the things that I've experienced, um, there's a bouncing back that can happen. And for whatever reason, I have bounced back. I keep bouncing back. And it's almost to the point where I will say it's not so much about bouncing back anymore because that muscle is there. It's not that things aren't happening, but I understand at a core level where my strength comes from. And I know what to do to get myself connected
Mm,
and to lean into that when things do happen. Um, but resilience, I want people to think of it as more of it as expansive. It's like
mm,
you have more strength within you than you realize. And when you remember who you are, you do know what to do. And that's the big piece in supporting people in resilience coaching, because I'll just back up to my time in the beauty industry. Um, Everybody has their own unique style, their own unique look. And as a hairstylist, I would help them and guide them to that.
mhm,
And then I would have all of these products that would come alongside to support their unique look and haircut, right?
mhm,
Well, it's the same thing with resilience coaching, lifestyling. And it's coming with you, coming alongside of you, offering these tools like core passion. And we can even talk about numerology. That's another piece in understanding your soul's blueprint and the timing and the rhythms and your natural cadence in life.
mhm,
These tools I can bring in to support people when they're ready. And I will say, you'll know when you're ready because I knew when I was ready
mm,
to open that door.
mm,
Because what I do isn't for everyone. And
right.
I understand that not everyone's going to be called to resilience coaching. But if you're at that crossroads in your life and you know that you're ready to do something different because you recognize all of a sudden like these same patterns that keep
Mm,
showing up in your life, patterns of fear
yeah.
over and over, no matter if you're in a relationship, if you're attending a church or your new age group, um, married, not married, single, in your career, even in your health and wellness.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And so when you're ready to like look at something different and you want somebody to show you where your gifts are and where your innate talents and your innate nature looks like, I am honored to work with people.
That's so cool. And what I'm hearing in that is the way I'm defining leadership these days. I have a membership group that meets on Mondays, and we're called the Enlightened Leadership Lab. And the way we define leadership in the lab is anyone who's willing to go first. It doesn't have anything to do with title, position, tenure, nothing. And what you're describing is your journey of going first so that you can teach by demonstrating in a way what you've experienced and what's happened for you in your life based on, I love how you put it back to when I was in the beauty industry. This is how I'm hearing you kind of recount your life story and saying, this is could be why this happened. This could be why this happened. This could be why this happened. And if the path is set for us to be the greatest version of ourselves, wouldn't it be cool to be able to look back and go, oh, so that could be why, huh? And it sounds like with your guidance, that's what you can help people do so that they don't have to be stuck in fear forever.
Yes, yes. So within the resiliency coaching, and because also when people go through loss and they lose a loved one, and that was one of the greatest gifts that I experienced was hearing through a medium
Mm-hmm.
that Amanda was still with me, even though I already felt her and I've
Mm-hmm.
already had experiences. But I'm a person that I like to get that reflection through someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Not that they have all the answers. They're there to just reflect
Right.
and affirm. And so after Amanda passed away, I had prior to that, I'd also had some paranormal type of experiences.
Uh-huh.
Um, but then when that happened with her and someone helped me to remember and affirm, and I knew I was starting to see things and I would experience things with other people's loved ones, I decided to embrace that part of myself and allow those gifts to come forth and support people. I know a lot of people are challenged with that,
Mm-hmm.
and understandably so. I mean, we do want to be mindful
Mm-hmm.
because there are spiritual workers, and just like any field, that may be working from fear and their own constrictions, and so they're not seeing things um, in the highest light, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think it's important that people discern
Right.
who they want to work with.
Mm-hmm.
I let people know I'm not getting any information that's outside of you. This
Mm-hmm.
is all within your energy field, and we're connecting. And so I am seeing what's in your energy field. And if that's a certain loved one or loved ones, if that's your angels and spirit guides, um, perfect.
Yeah. What's so funny when you say that, not funny, haha, but I was thinking about the challenges with the way I was raised in the church I was raised, where this would all be considered of the devil. This is, evil spirits, all these kinds of things. And I always find it kind of interesting now without the eyes of judgment at all. My parents were raised the way their parents raised them. There's no judgment at all. It's we can read a book that was written many, 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 many years ago that says that there was a bush that was burning and someone was talking from that bush. And that doesn't seem odd. I mean, why would I think I can't get messages now today that are, to me as real as those that we read about in the Old Testament? So I have to believe that there is a God. This is my own personal view. There is a God who is as present today as ever. And if we are awake to it or aware of it or looking for it or open to it, we're going to get these messages all the time. I like to call it God, but people can call it what they will, universe, spirit, angels, whatever. So I love that you're inclusive in the way you're saying this, and you're not for everybody, which is great. That's the whole idea about vibrational energy with the sound, going back to the sound. I don't know a whole lot about that, but I understand that there are certain vibrational pitches maybe that resonate. I mean, think about singing. It's the same sort of thing, right? If your
Yeah.
voice is more resonant, you'll hear the lower tones. If your voice is higher, you know what I mean? It's just, it makes sense in so many ways that you are on the path you are with music and vibration and energy and spirit and love and everything. So Denise, thank you for sharing your whole journey like this. It makes even logical sense to me, right?
Yes, yes. And you know, a couple years ago, I will tell you, 2018, because maybe there'll be people that'll listen to this and like, well, wait a minute, I thought you were all involved back in the church and you had let
Uh,
go of all of this new age stuff and you this and this and were against it and all of that. But it was a piece of my journey. I felt called to be back in it. It was as
mm,
real as possible for me. And in fact, during that time, wrote some got together with a bunch of other Christian writers and wrote some fantastic music and got to perform it live at an event here in town with a
mm,
full band. And I look back on that now, and I'm so grateful for that part of my journey again, because when I moved out of it, it's not that I've never left God.
mhm,
I think my human self in my fear has left because I didn't
mm,
understand.
mm. Yeah, yeah.
But I just knew that it was time to move, expand beyond all of that,
Mhm,
um, to be available to meet people where they are
mm,
and what they need, and to be a safe place. If they're having things that are going on and they can't talk about it in their church family, they can't talk about it at the bar or the beauty salon or
mm,
with their family, whatever it is. I want to provide that space where there's nothing you can tell me that is going to make me look at you as you're crazy and weird.
mhm,
And the one thing that we didn't talk about that I embraced in 2008 is that I became an ordained minister
oh, wow.
through a special ceremony. It's under the Order of Melchizedek. It's like it's a nonprofit organization, and we're here to just serve people wherever we're needed.
Mm,
And I have had the privilege of doing several weddings and funerals and a couple baptisms even.
wow.
And but the most recent wedding I did was for Sari and Steve, our dear friends,
Oh, yay.
this past June. But the reason I'm circling this all back is because that being involved in the denominations that I was involved in, a lot of that wasn't allowing for what
Mm,
I wanted to do.
mhm, mhm.
And so I had to say goodbye with love and with gratitude, and I still feel that way, even though some people might be disappointed.
Yeah,
I feel very solid in my connection to God and who, what, why, where, and when I'm here, you know?
yeah, yeah, right.
um, so this has been an amazing experience with you to
Oh,
be able to just lay all this stuff out and have
mhm.
this real conversation and moving forward with however I can be of support. I'm here.
So Denise, how would people find you if they want to have a deeper conversation with you or find out more about your sound healing or anything you're doing?
They can go to my website, and it's my full name, DeniseMarieGaber.com.
.com, okay?
Mhm.
And they can find what they need there, contact information and everything.
They can. It's all there. It's all right.
Okay.
Yep.
How about music? Where are you performing anywhere coming up?
Not yet.
Okay.
I will be. I'm getting back. Like I said, I'm getting back into that. I just honestly relaunched my whole business. I took a little break for a while and got settled here in Fargo and just cleansed myself of some more of the forgetfulness, the fears that I was
Mm,
experiencing. And this last year, I'm like, okay, I moved down into my space, and now it's time to be open and available. I did go to Crystal Rock for a period of time, and now we have another center in town called the Light Codes Healing Center, which I'm gonna promote them as well
yes.
because what they have set up there is the energy enhancement system, which is basically, if you look at our bodies like a cell phone, you go there and you're being recharged.
Oh,
The
wow.
cellular level.
So anybody who's interested at all in any of these kinds of dialogues, questioning things, I know Denise, and she's a very safe person with whom to have this kind of conversation. So please reach out, DeniseMarieGaber.com, which I'll put in the show notes. Denise, this has been a joy and a pleasure to reconnect. Thank you for answering when I asked who wanted to have a conversation with me. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to following you and seeing how things are continuing to spiral up for you.
Yes, yes. And I'll just gonna say one more thing. You can find music on my YouTube channel, but there'll be a link to that in the website.
Great. So look for the YouTube channel link on the website as well, and you'll be able to hear original music from Denise Marie Gaber. Thank you so much for being with me today. And everyone else, as always, get real. We'll talk again. Thanks, everybody. Okay, I'm going to go stop recording.